So in the passage before what we've heard today from Mark, Jesus was on the opposite side of the sea, the lake, at Gerasene, where there he brought back into community a demoniac, a man possessed with demons. I know many of you remember the story of Gerasene demoniac. But today's passage, we're now on the other side of the lake, the sea. And Mark has entwined more than two stories, but entwined these stories of the hemorrhagic woman, a bleeding woman, who had been bleeding for 12 years, and the 12-year-old daughter who dies of the leader of the synagogue. Now these stories bring up a question for me, one question, many questions, but the one I'm going to present is, what would one risk in order to be healed? What would one risk to be back in community? And is being in community more important than being healed? In whatever healing dimensions you want to imagine. Now there may be some that say, if I could be healed in a certain way, body, mind, spirit, then I would trade that for community. And I believe that that might be responding in fear. Being outside community is painful. Very painful. Leads to depression. And it is ultimately life-taking. And as you've heard me say before, my experience with the nursing units in hospital, some of them, you can see it on their faces. They have fallen off the radar of family and friends for whatever reason. They are no longer in community. And it shows. But that's certainly not the only place we can see people who have fallen out of community. Now we talk a lot, or I do at least, about Jesus, how he is constantly in opposition to the religious authorities. But here, as soon as Jesus puts his feet on the shore of the lake, the beach, a leader of the synagogue has fallen to his knees begging Jesus to help cure his daughter, heal his daughter. This leader is probably a wealthy person in stature and in physical means. And Jesus, without question, goes. Yes, I'll follow you. Take me to your house. So on this journey of the trust of Jairus, the leader of the synagogue, the crowd follows them. What's going on? Where's everybody going? Oh, I'm going too. I want to see what's going on. I hear he's going to heal somebody. A large crowd. A crowd that maybe you've been in getting out of a football game or something. You get jostled and knocked about. And all of a sudden, Jesus feels something. Mark says that Jesus felt the power go from him. But the woman, the hemorrhagic woman, the woman who's been on her period for 12 years, let's just say what it is, has touched Jesus, has risked. And this risk is not that she's going to get trampled by the crowd. The risk is this. A woman in first century Palestine under Roman rule had to be under the authority of a male. could not go out in public alone. Either your father or when you're married, your husband. If you were not married by the age of 20, a tax was levied on your family. If you produced no male children, a tax was levied on your family. You getting the picture? Now let's lay on the Jewish purity laws. A woman on her period could not go out in public. Ritually, she was unclean. And if she touched a male, he became unclean. She could not have relations with her husband or partner. Probably a husband. And she couldn't even sit on the same cushion that a man might sit on. Once her period was over, then you had to wait 7 days for a ritual purification. Not a whole lot of time left to be in community. You see where this woman's coming from? Her risk. And anybody that noticed her and knew of her condition could make a big deal out of it. And this woman was poor. Mark says she had spent all her money on trying to get a cure. All her money on doctors to try to cure her. Because she wanted back in community, at least for 2 weeks maybe that she could get back in every month. She spent it all, but she still grew worse. To her, it was worth the risk to slip in the crowd. If I but touch his clothes. A little magical, I admit. Well, on her part, it was a little magical belief. I just touched her clothes. And then Jesus stops. Can you just imagine Jairus' face when Jesus stops? Who touched me? Who cares who touched you? My daughter's sick. Let's go. And then the disciples. Who touched you? Oh, who didn't touch you? It's a crowd. A crowd of people. Why are you asking this? But this is where Jesus takes away the magic. Jesus wanted whoever touched him to know that they were in community. Can you imagine being that woman when she was called out? Well, when Jesus said, "Who touched me?" She could have maybe tried to have hidden. But something compelled her, through her fear and trembling, to fall down before Jesus and tell him what she had done and why. Have you ever been in that moment when you were so afraid of what you had just done and you just spill your guts? You empty your guts. Confess. And you feel, literally, you feel the fear going away from you. That's what happened to this woman. As she was confessing what she had done, the joy of her being immediately healed was overtaking her, and the fear was subsiding. So Jesus, to bring her back in community, calls her daughter. Your faith Your trust has made you well. Then Jesus hears a conversation. Leader, it's too late. Your daughter has died. Don't bother with this rabbi. It's too late. Mark is telling us through this that Jesus is saying it's never too late. Jesus can work through and beyond death. So he goes on with Jairus. And Jairus was taking some risks too, a leader of the synagogue. He has a lot to lose. Stature, maybe his financial stature as well. Asking this rabbi that everybody's talking about to come and heal his daughter. What is worth the risk? Jairus' daughter, the death of his daughter, was going to be crushing to his community. Many of us have had direct, recent, personal experiences with the death of the daughter of this community. Devastating. The community was crushed. But Jesus said, no. As long as you trust in me and believe in me, there will be love and there will be community. When laughter and ridicule seem to rule the day, and I'll admit it seems to have ruled the day in the last few years, the power of love proves differently. Jesus does restore the daughter to Jairus and restores community. And in his compassion for the little girl, after he raises her up, give her something to eat. After we do stuff for people in community, we can't walk away and say, job done. Give them something else. Jesus has restored life, and Mark's story here has restored life to the rich and to the poor alike. Through their belief, through the belief of others, through their trust, the trust of others, and through their faith, and through his love. Now, what do these stories mean for us as individuals, us sitting here? Here's my take. I think they mean to reach out and take a risk for love. Come out of hiding for fear of what others might think of you or your situation. And I would have to say that I think this community of St. Francis is very good at helping people on these journeys. Could we be better? Absolutely. But we're very good at walking the journey with people. Risk it. Risk the encounter with the risen Christ. The risen Lord can be encountered here today at this altar. Can be encountered today by being Christ's to someone. Yes, you can be Christ to someone. Someone who desperately needs a healing touch and brought back into community. And what do these stories mean for community, for this community? Now, one ruling from the Supreme Court may have changed some minds, and that's good. But has it changed hearts? That's where we as community need to go to help change hearts. And yes, I acknowledge it's only possible for that ruling because some hearts were changed. And we need to work for changing others' hearts. And God says what's in the heart is most important. I believe the tragedy in Charleston has changed some hearts. But there's a lot more work for justice. A lot more to be done. These issues of division will require a lot of heart changing yet to be done. Discrimination that causes isolation of our brothers and sisters, that causes fear, that leads to depression, which leads to all sorts of evil. There's a lot of work yet to be done. We have work to be done as a community centered in Christ. Poverty issues, and still our own form of purity laws, forcing many into isolation and driven from community just as much as the bleeding woman in Mark's story was driven from community. As Jesus went into the midst of the people, knowing that he would be touched, our call is to do the same so that we might be touched in order to be saved through the power of Christ's unlimited love.